Trials is back. By now, depending on how active you are on Bungie's social media, YouTube, and the Destiny community, you've probably heard all about the return of the beloved PvP endgame mode for next season. Thanks to the efforts of all of you in the community investing and donating your fractal line, the Empyrean Foundation community event has been completed, the lighthouse rebuilt, and we're set to begin trials. However, despite all the excitement, there remains a strong case of dissatisfaction from a sizable portion of the Destiny community concerning community events, specifically around these questions. If Bungie was going to bring trials back anyway, what was the point of the community event? And would they really have withheld it? So today we're going to talk about community events, RPGs, and what Bungie can do to help their experiences matter, make them more meaningful. First, let's talk about the community events we've had in Destiny 2. Now, it depends on your definition, but at this point we've had either 2 or 4 such events. We had the Niobe Labs and Corridors of Time puzzles, which required massive community effort to solve, and we've had the Mars and Empyrean Foundation events, which required community grinding to complete the objectives. I believe that technically only the latter two are specified categorically as community events, but much of our discussion today will be relevant to the puzzle challenges as well. For both the Mars and Empyrean Foundation events, the community was asked to complete a series of waves, objectives, mostly revolving around repetitive activity. For Mars, it was killing millions of Hive, completing waves of Escalation Protocol, and running Warmind campaign Nightfalls. For the Empyrean Foundation, it was all about collecting Fractaline, earned from activities or bought/invested with materials, and donating to the Tower Obelisk. Both times the community rose to the challenge, completed the objectives, and were given specific rewards. Mars gave us an emblem as well as unlocked extra reward chests in the Menagerie until the end of the season. The Foundation provided a shader, emblem, triumph, and to those more active this season, a title. Narratively, the Foundation involved rebuilding the lighthouse and getting trials back, so the community could claim that we brought back trials, but that's debatable, and we'll talk about that more a little later. Firstly, I want to say that I enjoy these community events. I enjoy events which bring the community together and give us solid goals. Most of the time it is easy to feel isolated in this game, as every activity and progress is ours alone. We are all the Guardian, and so our progress is not shared as a community normally. A hardcore player's efforts do not usually reflect on me or the game world. All of my friends decimating the Hive population on Mars does not mean that the community will see a difference at all. I appreciate what Bungie is trying to do, and the more I think on this, I realize how difficult it is to achieve. I also appreciate the improvements made to the community challenges. The Mars event was pretty simple and straightforward, benefiting from the community's ability to farm and grind like mad. The reward was nice, extra chests in the Menagerie, but a bit lackluster when you consider that the Menagerie has been initially bugged and released to allow more chests simply by running back and forth fast enough. At the time, I was also not happy that there is no way to check the progress in the game. This is an issue I've had with the community puzzles and events since the beginning. I understand that we're all on the internet, but I'm always in favor of smart integration of and access to information in the game itself. The Mars event also was only rewarding toward the end. Finally, the event didn't feel like it mattered narratively. There wasn't a noticeable threat of invasion by the Hive, nor have their numbers dwindled thanks to our effort. However, someone heard my complaints at Bungie, and the Empyrean Foundation was a marked improvement. You could watch the progress unfold through the Crucible directory, and doing so was a constant reminder of what we were building. While spinfoil hats have been rampant about the return of trials for a long time, having the Empyrean Progress icon be a lighthouse in the center of the PvP directory was a pretty big sign of what was coming. It has also been much more rewarding. Donating Fractaline automatically completed 25% of each time-lost weapon bounty, meaning that if you had enough material in Fractaline, you could get god rolls of every weapon available. I myself gained about 25 levels of XP, donating thousands of Fractaline, getting what I consider my perfect paradox and trophy hunter. Completing the event also rewarded the shader, emblem, triumph, and the savior title as I mentioned earlier. It wasn't perfect though, by any means. Donating took a long time and was limited to only 100 Fractaline at a time, meaning those who had invested were literally donating for hours instead of playing the game. On top of that, while players enjoyed the weapon farm, some have expressed a desire to earn the weapons through playing the game and not by donating to an obelisk. Personally, I think it's a nice change of pace to have a weapon farm like this once in a while. It was the single best way to earn specific weapons in the game. Better than the Menagerie, better than the Black Armory. By better, I mean more efficient, more direct, more rewarding, and a better way to offset the RNG of random rolls. Yes, I understand that earning weapons from bosses or triumphs is more exciting, but it was nice for me to cut through the random chance to get the weapons I wanted. And while all I had to do was boringly sit at a tower pushing a button for a long time, I was only able to do so because I had the materials in Fractaline which I had earned through the season, and with materials I have earned throughout the game's history. Even bought Fractaline was earned, because I had the materials from playing the game earlier. The main problem with these community events, in my opinion, is a seeming lack of consequence. Both with community events and end of season transition, the events seem disconnected, not really impacting the other, and when you know Bungie has a specific plan in place, one that is expensive and difficult to change or redirect, you start wondering if it's worth it. Now first, I believe a slight perspective change is required from us, the player. We'll talk more about this in a later video discussing the possibility of a new Allegiance quest, but the fact is, this game is not Mass Effect. It's not Dragon Age. Destiny is not a full RPG. In Mass Effect, the entire game depended on your choices. What you said, how you were treated by others. You chose your friends, you chose your enemies, who came along on missions, and as a result, you chose who lived and who died. Destiny is a massive multiplayer online experience, however, and cannot feature this same level of role-playing consequence. You cannot make a choice in the game which leads to Tess Everest's death, although I'm sure many of you have thought about it. You cannot choose to bring Petra on a mission, anger her in some way, and close access to the Dreaming City for yourself or for others. The game doesn't work that way, and arguably shouldn't work that way. Now, even if we are going to entertain ideas like that, there are right ways and wrong ways, and the Destiny community has sadly shown time and again that we don't always know what we want. If you make a character, play Destiny with them for hundreds of hours, and now can't access the Shattered Throne or the Dreaming City because you angered Petra in a mission, are you really going to be happy about that? If Bungie came up with loyalty quests for you to rebuild her trust in you, would you be happy? I think yes and no. Simply speaking, you would be happy that there would be more depth and consequence, but you might be upset at the loyalty gating of a destination. So, how do we see this in the best light? And for Bungie, how should they design things moving forward? My main suggestion here is to add depth. Destiny has so much going on, so many characters, so many destinations and activities, but the game is shallow. The story is light, but being better delivered in recent seasons and expansions. The lore has always been deep but not brought into the spotlight. These characters, destinations, and activities have always leaned way more on action rather than depth and connection. Personally, given how much I love this franchise, I would love for an investment made by Bungie into the depth of this experience. I would love for quests and activities and destinations which allowed us to explore the world, the stories, the characters more. I would be all in on a Destiny where we got to know the NPCs better, went behind their tropes and stereotypes and titles, and got to know and interact with them more as people. Yes, looter shooter, but also guardian, rescuer, friend, prize earner, champion. I should be saving lives in the EDZ and recognized by Devrim as a commander in my field. You, who lives and breathes the Crucible, should be heralded as a champion and given special attention by Shaxx. Those who still wear your Dredgen titles should receive less favor from the Vanguard and more from the Drifter. I'm always in favor of more depth, and honestly, while I know my ideas often go way past what Bungie can and arguably should do, I think that even the most action-oriented, not focused on the story looter-shooter guardians out there would agree that some added depth to this game would really help. I cannot say for certain because I am on the other side of the spectrum, but to my story-light players out there, those who only come here to kill stuff and get loot, what do you think? Would you like the game to have more of these kinds of elements? Specialization where your choices and accomplishments open some doors unique to your kind of player? Or do you feel that that might be too restrictive or too time-consuming on Bungie's behalf? To meet in the middle, I would like to propose some ideas. I know that Bungie is doing everything they can, and I know that game development is time-consuming, expensive, and it's so challenging not only to balance, but to present a game that has to present this to a game that has over 1 million players on numerous platforms. So I will try to present these ideas with all of that in mind to hopefully offer some guidance on how we can add more depth here. In terms of narrative direction, we as players have to agree that Bungie has a plan, and they cannot really create consequences on the overarching plot of that plan. Trials was coming back, and if no one in the community participated in the Empyrean Foundations, Trials was still going to come back. It's part of the business. It's built into their internal roadmap. If we assume that choices are forks in the road, where you have consequence A or B, that would mean that Bungie would have to develop both paths and implement only one based on community involvement. That's like saying you would write 2 books but only publish 1. That's a lot of extra work and unreasonable to ask for. Now, there are ways Bungie could develop chapters or shorter narrative beats that pay off given community involvement, and Bungie should consider that more and more. Here's an example. Whether we wanted it or not. Pause for people completing the quote. Whether we completed the Empyrean Foundation or not, Trials was coming back. But just because it's guaranteed doesn't mean it arrives in the same way. Let's say we didn't complete the quest. We didn't complete the event. Perhaps Osiris and Saint took it upon themselves to complete it, maybe with the help of the Vanguard. Now, everyone is disappointed in us. Bounties may reward less experience, drops could be fewer or slightly less rewarding, vendor purchases may cost more, maybe certain vendors are more interested in working with us. Spider, Drifter, and Callus, seeing the gap forming between us and the Vanguard, maybe they start making more requests of us. I do believe this game could stand to have more consequence and character-specific interaction. Right now, we have some. The Awoken in the Dreaming City call you cousin if your player is also awoken. If your character is also awoken. We're almost always called by our class by the vendors in the tower, and certain activities, usually adventures, oddly enough, allow us to make choices affecting not only the outcome, but how we are treated by other characters. But even the elements we have in the game don't go as far as they could. Seals and titles allow other players to learn what kind of player you are, but they have no effect on NPCs. If you wear or have earned your Unbroken title, Shaxx should compliment you more, maybe reward you more. If you wear your Wayfarer title, Zavala should show more pride. Yeah, your choice between the Vanguard and Drifter still results in the latter calling you a snitch if you chose the former during the Allegiance quest, but that's it. In Destiny 1, long-standing loyalty and investment to a particular faction unlock a specific quest for each faction later on. Where is that in Destiny 2? I could go on, and I might do so in later videos. The fact is, the community events are meant to bring this community together, give us common goals, and to help move the world of Destiny forward. Same with the end of the season transitions we've been seeing. For the most part, I think they have succeeded and will continue to improve. Large outcomes are not likely going to change or be affected by our involvement, but smaller ones could, and the way we are treated by or interact with characters in the game could be expanded or deepened a little. I think Bungie has held back on this depth because 1, it can be a lot of work, but most importantly, number 2, they maybe didn't think it was wanted. Destiny is a looter-shooter. Those elements have to be right, and they have to be at the forefront of the game. They drive everything else in this experience. However, after years of this, I think the time has come for more depth to be added. Even if the narrative reasoning continues to be light, there could be mechanical ways to add experience to our choices and actions. The Seasons Pass does this. If you reach a certain rank, you get certain buffs. This could be done on a character or account basis as well, based on your choices and actions. If you completed the Flashpoint, maybe you get more rewards from that planet for the next month. Things like this. This is a very likely and more direct way for Bungie to implement this kind of consequence, still tied to the looting and shooting of the game, but representing a statistical effect on your player experience based on what you do and how you choose to spend your time. What do you all think? Luke Smith just put out his director's cut, by the way, so if you haven't yet read it, I suggest you do. It doesn't exactly provide detail, but brings up some of these same issues. What did you think about the Empyrean Foundation event, and what do you think should happen with community events going forward? Would you like more consequence and character specification, or do you think that doesn't really fit with Bungie or Destiny? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much. My links are in the description below. I stream most nights working piece by piece in these longer conversations. I'm still, as you could probably tell, talking around some dental experience I had 2 months ago. But if you'd like, feel free to come join me on Twitch. on Twitter, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye now.